All right, our first large ensemble from today is Joliet Junior College Large Ensemble, under the direction of my good friend Rich Moore. Let's give him a big hand.
Okay, before we get the show going here, I just want to make mention that we're going to be playing the Central City Sketches Suite, which was composed and performed originally in 1987. All the music was written and arranged by Benny Carter. He was in his late 80s at the time, and the whole concert involved a rekindling of some of his old classics, dance band music, and some more of the modern swinging stuff. And so we're going to kind of just try to cook through the sixth movement suite that was also featured on that recording and that concert. One, two, one, two, three. All right, thank you. That was the Central City Blues, and then that also went into the second movement of the suite called Hello. You heard from Blake Whatcott on the trombone, and Ron Magera on the trumpet, Joe Madden on the tenor saxophone, Rennie Moretti on the piano, and Jude Kalkbrenner on the guitar. We're going to continue now with the third movement called People Time. This is going to feature Sarah Ratcliffe, Irvin Varquez, and Ron Magera on the trumpet. Wrong tune. This is going to be Nancy on the flute. Fourth movement is called Promenade. This is going to feature Joe Madden on tenor saxophone and Rennie Moretti on the piano. The fifth movement of the suite is called Remember. This is going to feature Sarah Ratcliffe on the saxophone, alto saxophone, Blake Whatcott on the trombone, and Jan Murphy on the piano. All right. Thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate you coming out on your Sunday afternoon here to support this wonderful, great American music and support all these wonderful students. Thank you so much to the festival. Thank you so much to all the faculty and wonderful people who are working with all these great bands. Thanks to Jay for announcing us and everything. Our final tune here, short one called Sky Dance. This is going to feature Joe Madden and Dave Griesmer.
Joliet Junior College Jazz Band under the direction of Rich Moore. Awesome.
Hi everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. That was a very, very good performance. And when I look at this band, it's huge. Right? This is a big, big band. And I love it. I love that all of you are excited about playing. I love that I saw smiles right through the band and that you're grooving and loving to play jazz, which is awesome, and you sound really good. For a band this size, the intonation was really impressive. You're listening, you're playing in tune, right? The low end is really strong. The flutes and trumpets have a great blend. The trombones are blending. And as far as blend goes, the intersectional blends were nice. I would focus a little more on just which parts, right, are more important. So if one part has a melody, just making sure we come down a bit more. Dynamically, especially in the last two pieces, I felt that it was much louder than it needed to be. So I know excitement can make things loud. Also, we have a lot of amps, right? So, and it may not be your fault. It may be, you know, the room and new environment, but behind the flute solo, right? You were playing piano, very nice things, but just be very aware how loud the flute is and adjust to that. Or on bass, when it's the ballad, maybe turn down a little bit because your volume will dictate how loud the horns play. And on a scale of 1 to 10, the louds were like a 9. Now, you had some really good louds. But the softs for the ballad, I was waiting for it to get below a 5, right? But I didn't feel it really went below a 5. Can we take one of the, let's see, which one did I? Let's just work with some dynamics on the 5th movement. With the intro, we can just take the intro.
Remember?
Well, there's not really a big crescendo written in the part, is there? This is the one that has all the horns that come down for the solo. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's a big answer.
Yeah, so let's try something. I want you all to think of a number every 2 beats. We're gonna start at a volume of 7, and that's beat 1 of the first bar. And on beat 1, it's gonna be 7. On beat 3, it's gonna be 6. The next bar is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that, when you get to 1, that's where the alto comes in, and I want to hear the horns just sound like a hush, almost a subtone, right? Let's try that. From the beginning, is this about right? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, I was thinking of another piece. No, this stays loud until the end. But when you get to A, let's drastically bring that down. Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. You can keep it loud. Swell those. Boo doo 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 doo. All right, 1, 2, 3, ah. Last note, even softer, even softer. I know you could play that last note of the intro at A. Play your half note at A, no solo for now. Ready? That's nice. How about inner parts even just a little softer? Ready? Yeah, that's it. It might even feel like you're barely playing, but it's an effect, and it's an effect that the Ellington band used a lot, where it creates this nice cloud right underneath the soloist, and staying around that, maybe a little louder than that, but throughout the solo, right, would give a nice platform for the soloist. So that's what I had to say with dynamics. And the last thing I wanted to address was the piano with the guitar, right? Just took a deep breath. Because most of the time you're playing at the same time. And when you chunk, it's working because it's a roll. But when you're both comping behind the soloist, you're choosing to play different chords and also playing in the same register, so it can get muddy. And what I would suggest is just to make sure you're communicating with each other by looking at each other, trade off sections, right? Or maybe playing in different registers than the guitar, because the piano has a broader range, just to keep from being so convoluted. We don't want too many chords, because we've got a lot of chords here. Right, so you all sound great, and again, it was a really exciting performance. It was wonderful to hear all this music, and I congratulate you for learning the entire suite. Thank you. I'm going to pass this on to, looks like Ryan.
We're short on time, so I'm going to keep it very brief. But yeah, congratulations. This is a monumental piece of music. So kudos to the conductor for bringing this in, and for you all really rising to the occasion. Fantastic job. There's a lot of good things happening. I love the enthusiasm. I think my one comment would be for the horns. Before you play, for every phrase, make sure you're already feeling the subdivision, the groove. That has to happen internally all the time, and most importantly, before you play a note, because for a lot of young instrumentalists, we let our instrument create the groove. But the groove comes from inside your body. It comes from your body. And then the instrument is just a vehicle or a conduit for that groove. So there were many instances where you started playing and it was a little ragged or not together, and then about a measure in, it started to sync. But that should happen, that syncing, that blend should happen immediately. If you're all feeling the subdivision before you blow through your horns, it's going to become a much tighter ensemble. It's also going to force you to listen more to the rhythm section, which is something we all got to work on. So I really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
And I wanted to keep it short, but I enjoyed listening. First of all, I loved hearing this music, and this would be so much fun to play and get into. As a drummer, I'm always trying to figure out it was a judgment call. Do you play in the style maybe that it was originally done, or do you try to do a little more modern things? And I just try to think of as much as the drums can do to play the dynamics of the band. When there were so many different dynamics going within the horns. Sometimes you're playing time and there's really not much to do, but I always try to keep a radar out, and I would try to, for me, I would be learning almost all the parts that everybody's playing and seeing if there's even more that you can do. When I was watching you play, just in this example, there's things that you're doing that it really adds so much, but I couldn't hear them out there because it's quiet. I was thinking, boy, if I was recording this, that would have been great. And it's not it has nothing to do with, it's just this perspective that we have out here. But anything to tie the figures in. I was listening to the bass drum to the bass relationship. And on the first tune, the bass drum was a little bit louder to us than the bass, but that was, a subtle thing. And on the last tune, the playing in three, the chick, chick, maybe that's what is called for. I would have a hard time doing that because it would tighten me up in a way. So, dang, chick, dang, chick. I keep it looser, but that's a more modern way of playing. The 2/3 is more Max Roach style, so it depends what you want to do. But we enjoyed it a lot. It was great to hear you. That monstrous trumpet solo on that first tune, I was like, wow. And if it was me, the other thing is I try to hang on the soloist when I'm playing the drums and do something that is acknowledging everybody's solo. And you did that for the guitar solo when you came down to give you some space so you could play. So anything you can do to up the level of the depth of the figures and tie the band together, that's what I listen for. But great job, we loved it, it was great.
All right, let's give it up. Joliet Junior College under the direction of Rich Moore.